The year is 1848 and the Seneca Falls Convention has begun. Women are gathering support for their rights, and soon it will be time to campaign for suffrage and fight against the opposition in Votes for Women, which was designed by Tori Brown and is published by Fort Circle Games, who sponsored this video. Hi everyone, I'm Mike Murphy, the Brothers Murphy, and I'm here with BoardGameGeek.com. Well, I've got some campaigning to do, so let's get this game down to the table to go a little more in focus on Votes for Women. In Votes for Women, players will square off as either the suffragist side or the opposition. Players on the suffragist side want to move Congress to pass the 19th Amendment so it can move to the states to be ratified, and of course the opposition wants just the opposite. The game will take place over a maximum of 6 turns, and each turn will have 6 rounds within it. Each turn begins with the planning phase, where players will draw 6 cards from their personal deck, bringing their hand to 7. Beginning with the second turn, players will be able to use earn buttons to bid on a strategy card, which can be played on a future round. The operations phase is where the meat of the game is, and this is where cards will be played to take actions. Each of the rounds in the operation phase will require you to play a card from your hand, and there are several ways a card can be used. First, each card is a real event, person, publication, or idea that occurred during this time period. Many cards require you to roll dice to be successful, and they often will allow you to place a campaigner and support cubes in the states. Players will vie for control of the states so they can either ratify or reject the right for women to vote. There can only be one player support cubes in a state at a time, and in order to add your own color cubes, you must first remove your opponent's cubes. Each cube that would add one of your color cubes will instead remove your opponent's cubes until there are none left, at which point you can begin adding cubes of your color into that state. Players can instead discard a card for a campaigning action. For each campaigner you have out on the board, you can roll a 4-sided die. If you dislike your roll, you can spend a button to re-roll all your dice. Once landing on a roll you like, you will assign each die to a different campaigner and then add the same number of matching cubes to the states in that region that the campaigner occupies. Players can instead organize by discarding a card, and they will receive a button for each campaigner they have in play. Players can also lobby Congress by rolling a 6-sided die for each of their campaigners, and for every 6 rolled, you can add or remove markers in the Congress area of the board. Suffragists want to fill this area with markers, as this represents Congress sending the 19th Amendment to the states, and the opposition wants to block Congress and remove these markers. There will be 9 state cards in play, and if you are the first player to place 4 of your side's cubes in a state matching a card, you claim the card and keep it in front of you. You can now play this card for its effect either before or after playing a card as part of a round. After the first turn, a new phase gets added to the round called the strategy phase. There will always be 3 strategy cards on offer, and during the strategy phase, the suffragist player will announce how many buttons they will pay to take one of the strategy cards and place it in their player area. Similarly to the state card, strategy cards will be played as an additional event that takes place during the operations phase during a round of that player's choosing. If the opposition wishes, they can match the bid played by the suffragist player, in which case both players will spend the buttons promised and neither player collects a card. If the opposition wants a strategy card, they must spend exactly 1 more button than the suffragist player bid, and both players spend the promised buttons and the opposition collects a strategy card of their choice. As play continues, the congressional area of the board may be filled, which will send the 19th Amendment to the states. This is irreversible, and once it occurs, quickly check the state of the board. Each state that has 4 or more support of yellow and purple will immediately add a check mark to represent that state approving of the amendment. Each state with 4 or more red opposition cubes will gain a red X mark refusing the 19th Amendment. The game now shifts into a race. The suffragists need 36 states with a green check mark to ratify the amendment and give the right to vote to women, and the opposition needs just 13 states to reject the amendment. If either player achieves their goal, they instantly win. If after 6 turns the 19th Amendment hasn't been passed by Congress, the opposition will automatically win, and if neither players achieve their goal by the end of 6 turns, it goes to a final vote. Here, for each undecided state, both sides roll a 6-sided die. If one side has cubes in the state, add 1 to their die roll for each cube. Players may use buttons to re-roll, and for each state, the side with the higher roll immediately places a green checkmark or red X, with all dice going to the opposition unless the suffragist side has played Miss Feb wins the last vote, and during the final vote, the first player to reach their goal wins. In Votes for Women, it will be key to play your events wisely to undermine your opponent's progress while gaining momentum across the map for whichever side you are playing. You can choose to play this game in teams or with 1 or 2 players playing as a suffragist going against an AI called the Oppobot, who uses their own deck of cards. And if you'd like to learn more about this game, be sure to check out its page at BoardGameGeek.com. And until next time, I'm Mike Murphy, and we've been going in focus on Votes for Women. Have a great day.